Hey everybody, Jason back for another movie review series this time, and will be starting one of my favorite horror series of all time, and that is Nightmare on Elm Street. And today I will be reviewing the very first one, the original 1984 classic, A Nightmare on Elm Street. And again, this is just the first one on Blu-ray, which I got, and then they came out with the Nightmare on Elm Street collection. And this has all 7 movies, which I will be reviewing, all of them. And it also has an 8th disc in here. Not an 8th disc, but an extra bonus disc. Because you got the Nightmare on Elm Street 1 disc, and then you got 2 and 3 on one, 4 and 5 on the next one, and then you got Freddy's Dead and Wes Craven's New Nightmare on the next one. So, although the disc looks different in the first one than this does, it's the same print. It has the exact same special features. In fact, I read it back here before I filmed to this one right here, which is on this one. It's the exact same, so just FYI. So again, let me go over the cast first. And John Saxon, he plays the Nancy Thompson's father, who is on the police force. You got Ronnie Blakely, who plays Nancy Thompson's mother, drunk mother. You got Heather Langenkamp, who plays Nancy Thompson herself, and she's an unknown, and most people know her for this role, honestly. She did outstanding. And introducing Johnny Depp, who played Glenn, which was Nancy's boyfriend. So this is the time that Johnny Depp was not known. In fact, that's why it says introducing Johnny Depp. So watch this one, and you will see the beginnings of Johnny Depp when he started acting. So let's get started. 1984 hits around. It rolls around, and we already have Michael Myers. We already have Jason Voorhees. And Wes Craven is like, hey, let me get in on the action. And thank you very much, Wes Craven. You did us fans a favor by starting this. And I'm sure you didn't actually think it was going to continue 7 movies. So thank you very much. And again, this is based around Nancy Thompson, who is your average high school student who is in Springwood and having nightmares like any other teenager, just dealing with nightmares. But she meets a burnt man, disfigured, has been burnt, and he has razors on his fingers. And in fact, in the very beginning of the film, we are not introduced to Nancy Thompson. We are introduced to a character named Tina, which turns out to be Nancy's friend from high school. And she's in the middle of a dream. And you also realize that in this dream, she is in a boiler room. And then you find out it is Freddy Krueger that is after her, which is this burnt man that I was talking to you about. Freddy Krueger, which is also classic Robert Englund. Robert Englund plays Freddy Krueger in all of them besides the reboot, and he does a fabulous job. So basically, as a quick backstory, Freddy Krueger is a child murderer. Back in the day, he's a child murderer, and all the parents of the children got together and burnt him, and he died. And now he comes back to haunt people in their dreams. And when they dream, they actually, when they dream and they're killed by this guy, they're actually killed for real. So, it can scare anybody in, watching this. In fact, out of all the series, I'm just going to throw this out there. This is the one that continues to freak me out still, even to this day. I'll still watch it. and it's scary. It is just the music you hear in the background here, which is done by, let's see, what was his name? I had it in my head. I think it was Elmer Bernstein. I could be wrong about that. Elmer Bernstein, outstanding job, and it makes this thing freaky also. So anyway, Tina wakes up, and you notice she has some claw marks on her gown. So she had dreamed about it, but noticed, oh my God, she has been cut by Freddy with his claws, and it's come out of the dream. So of course this freaks her out. So she invites Nancy over, which in turn invites Glenn over. And because she's scared, she can't. The parents are away, and she doesn't want to be alone. And none of them know that they have dreamt about the same guy until they're here and they realize, that they both are dreaming of the same guy with the red and green sweater, dirty hat, and the claw on their hand, which has 4 razors, and it's a glove that he puts on. So you're also introduced here to Tina's quote-unquote boyfriend, I guess, and it's Rod Lane. And he's your, I don't know what you call him really, but he is, he's not a friendly character. He's kind of funny, but he's not your favorite character on here. Well, basically what happens is Tina goes to bed with Rod, and then Glenn and Nancy go to sleep separately, and Tina falls asleep because they're going to bed, and she starts dreaming. Well, she ends up getting killed, and of course Rod is blamed for this because the door's locked on the inside. Nobody else can do it. So he is on the run after this. He escapes. And this death is pretty gruesome. You notice that she's up on the ceiling, and there's just blood everywhere. And she's calling out to Rod, and then she dies. Well, Nancy's freaked out, but to continue the story and to make everything go okay, she goes back to school. She's not sleeping because she's afraid to go to sleep, so she's drinking constantly coffee and no-dose pills to stay awake. And there's an awesome scene. She goes to school, and she falls asleep in class, and is also met by Freddy again. And she burns herself because she wants to wake up. So she burns herself. She wakes up in class, and she has a burn mark on her arm. So now she realizes what's going on, kind of. Something's going on. Something had happened to her in the dream. She doesn't know what's going on. So, and her mother and father are, I think, divorced or separated or something like that. And her mom thinks she's crazy, so she boards up the windows. Which is... She's just trying to be safe, but she is this drunk mom who doesn't care about anything, really. She's completely drunk. And before, she is actually walking to school, and that's when Rod gets caught by the cops. It's an operation by the cops that they use Nancy, and they get Rod Lane and goes to prison. Well, all this time, she's coming up with a plan and explaining it to her boyfriend Glenn, which is again by Johnny Depp, and she is coming up with a plan with him to try to get this guy. She knows who it is, and then she finds out also from her mom, because the mom finally, thought she was crazy this whole time, and she even took her to a sleep clinic. And the doctor in there is actually, if you didn't know that, it's Roger Rabbit's, it's the actor for Roger Rabbit's voice. so it's kind of cool. But in this dream clinic, she has all this stuff attached to her face and body, and she goes through a dream, and you don't see what's happening, but you find out that two things happen. One, she has taken his hat off of his head, and two, she's got like a streak of white hair now up here. They go home after this, and she approaches her mom, and then the mom confesses, yes, I'm sorry, the mom says that. The mom says, yes, your father and I and all the parents got together and burnt this guy because he'd been killing children. And of course Nancy's upset because she's been acting like Nancy has been crazy this entire time. So they go down to the basement of the house, and then she shows her the claw, which she's kept in the boiler of the house. And basically she puts some booby traps around, and she decides, to go in the dream and set her time on her clock, and she's going to set it for 10 minutes. And before this, you also find out that Glenn had fallen asleep and got killed. And it's a really gruesome death. He gets sucked into his bed, and there's a bunch of blood everywhere, and his mom walks in. It's really gruesome. It was supposed to be a lot worse than that, too. If you search YouTube, there is an extended cut of that whole scene right there, so I recommend watching it. Still, it's pretty creepy. So she gets in there, she grabs him. When she wakes up, he's not there. She doesn't immediately see him. And so all of a sudden, he is there. And this is where, he takes him down to the basement. He gets set on fire. I think. Let me see. Yeah, he gets up in the basement. She's yelling for her father, which is across the street, taking care of Glenn, who had died, and Freddie at this time had gone up the stairs, and the mother was asleep and gone in there. And you see the footsteps going up there that's on fire. And finally they bust down the door, and that's when the father and Nancy saw it and put the cover over her mom, and then that's when you notice that the soul disappears. And this is where it kind of gets a little tricky, but I definitely am okay with it. She found out earlier from Glenn that if you just don't believe in this guy, that he doesn't have any powers. And so as Freddy comes back up, all burnt again, he was already burnt, but she turns his back on him, which is what Glenn had said. And as soon as she said, I don't believe in you, you are not here anymore, he totally disappears. And this is where it kind of gets a little tricky. When she opens up the door, it's like she's outside again. You see her friends who have passed away already, and you see the mom again, and they drive off. And I guess at this point, Freddy's taken over also at the ending, and the mom gets sucked in the door by Freddy, and that's the ending. So it's a dream ending. We don't know, honestly, at this point, we don't know what the ending really means. But you can take it how it is. This is an outstanding movie. It still holds up. It's very scary, and it's definitely one of my top horror movies, let alone the franchise. But this, number one, to me, is 10 out of 10, and any horror fanatic needs to watch this if you haven't. This one, if anything out of the series, you need to watch this one, because they do an outstanding job. The one thing I don't like is Freddy, you don't see enough of him. Most of the movie, he's dark, but the parts you do see him, it's really gruesome. You do see that part where his face comes off, and it's all Joker-like. It's the skeleton. So 10 out of 10, highly recommend it. The soundtrack on this is outstanding, and if you're a fan of Johnny Depp, this is something you got to watch. This is the beginning of Johnny Depp, so give this a watch, and I will be back soon with A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll see you next time. Have a good day.